Eddington is the latest film directed by Ari Aster, and boy oh boy, if you thought Beau Was Afraid was polarizing, he really decided to step up his game with this one. This stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, Austin Butler, and the whole premise essentially takes place in May of 2020, so yes, this film touches on every single issue. Specifically, the plot revolves around Phoenix, who plays the sheriff in this small town, and Pascal plays the mayor, and they butt heads quite a bit, specifically involving issues such as mask mandates, businesses shutting down, social distancing. And when this town learns about the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis, many of the teenagers in the town as well as others begin to protest, and the film only gets more controversial from there. So whether or not you enjoyed this film or appreciate it at all is going to be dependent on a number of things. Your political stance will definitely come into play here because this film is trying to represent a multitude of sides, and depending on what you think the overall message of this film is, I think that's also going to determine your opinion of it. Because this film really toes the line of trying to represent both sides, and the danger in doing that is I think a lot of people could walk away from this film feeling like both sides were equally criticized, and therefore both are equal in their harm to society. Now, that is not personally my take, although I think there are some things Aster could have been a little more careful in doing, but I fault no one for walking out of this film and feeling like it wasn't critical enough against certain people. Because while the left and the right politically are both made fun of within this film, I do think it takes a hard stance on where the true morality of Ari Aster is. But that, of course, could be me just being generous to his own personal politics because I am generally a fan of his films. And so while I do comparize the polarizing response to Beau Was Afraid, they are much different in the sense where Beau Was Afraid, a lot of people didn't like that film because it was either too abstract, too pretentious. The ending left a lot of people frustrated, but the reason people aren't going to like this one is because it is so based in our own reality. It will be polarizing in the sense that people don't want to relive what they just went through 5 years ago. And that's also a very fair viewpoint to have. I think depending on your relationship to the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic, that's going to affect your view on this film because for some people, it was the most traumatic experience of their life. Now, I am personally grateful that it wasn't traumatic in the sense where I didn't lose a lot of close loved ones. I was still able to remain financially stable and find community, but not everyone shares that experience. And so even making jokes at lockdowns and mask mandates, it's a sensitive topic, and it's not one that I fault people for not wanting to revisit. And in that way, I am curious to see if this film holds up better over time once people are further removed from the situation. But for better or for worse, I do think this film is a great representation of the overall feeling of what it was like to live during that time. The chaos, the confusion, the overwhelming news updates and information that we were getting flooded with through social media. I think if you do remove the politics from this, it is a very moving story of how consumed we are with technology and how it has so much control over our entire life. Problem is, I don't know if you can really tell that movie without associating it to real life events, because even if the events of this film were completely fictional, I still think there would be a lot of analogies being made to our real life situation. So in my personal read of this film is less of Ari Aster trying to make political statements, especially concerning these issues like the pandemic and Black Lives Matter. But what my read of this film is that he is using these to tell a larger picture of how consumed our mind is and how easily influenced we can be if we let ourselves just go into these rabbit holes. There's a supporting character in this film who is a teenage boy, and initially he's trying to impress a girl. That doesn't work all so well, but in doing so, he's becoming more aware of the murder of George Floyd and the Black Lives Matter movement as a whole. We see him join a protest and in a very funny scene go home to educate his white parents on racial injustice, all while the parents having a giant gun rack in the background. And this kid ends up becoming a major character and takes a couple twists and turns even in his own character arc. And every other character has their own arc, sometimes leaning more left, leaning more right politically, but it's all shaped by one thing, and that is social media. In an interview for this film, Ari Aster claimed that every single scene, he asked himself, how can I fit another phone into this frame? And I will say the use of cell phones and technology is probably the best I've ever seen it for a modern film. It feels like a very accurate representation of people scrolling their phones late at night, filming countless interactions and altercations just in case they want to post on social media to go viral. And to me, that is the main moral of this film. It's not so much much telling you which side to take, although I think there are a lot of people that wish it would have done that. But it's more offering an explanation for why things became so extreme, especially during this time. Joaquin Phoenix plays a very conservative sheriff, and conservative might be even downplaying his ideology, because he quickly becomes very radicalized once again through social media. And then there's Pedro Pascal, the mayor of this town, who is clearly more left-leaning as he looks to enforce the mask mandates, the social distancing, and so there's a very clear tension that is easy to explain to us as the audience because we know how these things go. And so by the end of this movie, I think I was just impressed that Ari Aster was even willing to go there with some of these issues. And I cannot emphasize enough, I fault no one for not wanting to revisit these things, but I don't think you're going to find another director that would be brave enough to tell a story like this. Because outside of the themes and the plot, this is also one of the best looking movies of the year. What he does with the camera movements and lighting feels special even to him, and I think that's where he often gets labeled as this pretentious filmmaker, because he is clearly trying really hard to do stuff that is so unique and special, and it can come across often as just flashy tricks that don't actually help the overall narrative. And so while this wasn't my favorite film of his, I still think it is one that is very meaningful, and I do think that being farther removed from 2020, people are going to come around to this. And I hate to say that I had a good time with this, but it is one of the funniest films of the year. And even though I may not agree with every single theme that was represented within this story, I still found this movie to be incredibly special and a great snapshot of what it was like living during that time. So those are some of my thoughts on Eddington, but I would love to hear yours if you've seen it. Did you like it? Did you absolutely hate it? Please comment below and let me know what you think, and I will see you next time.